Hi Deepak, welcome to Dialogue with Darwin. It's a pleasure to have you talk to us about life in general and HR in specific.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for the invite.
So
Wonderful
yeah,
being here.
Deepak. So what made you choose HR as a professional choice? Got it. And what
Yeah.
has been the biggest high in this career for you?
So being an HR head, and I was fortunate to be an early HR head. So for last, I guess about um, 10 to 15 years, I've been heading HR, and I've worked with multiple CEOs and multiple managing directors, and very very different perspectives each time. That's the kind of high, and you build organizations with them. So great pride in building, being part of CRISIL, building that as an organization, building Bajaj as an organization, working with Karvy now. I mean, amazing place to be. And
So now, as a CHRO of Karvy, you manage like 30,000 plus employees, multiple businesses. What are the few things that you keep in mind while managing that wide a variety of people?
so yeah, very very diverse. So people come from different cross section, different segments. Businesses have very different models. So trying to make employee the center of our activity, trying to ensure that he grows with the organization, imbibing the some of the values that we have. Now this also comes with the way you treat an employee, how you handle him, and hence we ensured that irrespective of the businesses we have a central delivery system for the employee. And we try and reach out to these employees and try and bring in the commonality that is required for that business. So each business gets its independence and is able to freely do and act the way that the market requires them to do.
How do you deal with such
Right.
a magnitude of high potentials in a given organization, right? Because they need to be dealt separately. And what are the things
Yeah.
that you do for that?
So empowerment is amazing. I mean, the culture is amazing from an empowerment standpoint. Honestly, we've given up on categorizing people, but if a guy is good, then I think we have examples of assistant managers who are executive directors. We have advisors, who would call customers on what to buy today, doing equity research. So we have given that kind of growth wherever is possible. Yeah.
And in your journey of across organizations, right? You've been trying to do this digitization work across the board, and we've
Yeah.
seen it closely when we
Yeah,
work
yeah,
with you,
Rohit,
right?
yeah.
And
Of late, yes, last 5, 4 years, I think we're doing a lot of digitalization now. Yeah.
and where do you think is the biggest gap?
I think how focused you are in driving this is where the gap is. And what is the firepower or the senior management focus on the digitalization? So one is that how much of focus do you give to it? Because employees, it cuts both ways. So if you have digitalization, you also are vulnerable to a lot of productivity and optimization issues, and you see gaps. So when you start the process, it becomes extra work, and nobody wants to do that extra work because they're all anyways drowned in the usual. And that's the biggest stumbling block for me, at least.
Yeah, we live in an age where an Uber driver gives you feedback through a rating.
Right.
But organizations have not moved there, right?
Yes,
And
very
they've
true.
not gone to
Yeah,
that
right.
extent where there are a lot of touch points, but
No
all of this is
feedback.
recorded, held. It's not recorded basically. It's held to a point where
Yeah.
there could be a bias or anything.
And they're not integrated, so you
They're not
can't. Yeah,
integrated. They're not talking to each
integrated.
other, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see this going, right? Like, if you have to envision a similar structure that happens in organizations, what do you think will happen?
So I think it's about time. It's just a matter of time that will come in. Somebody like Darwinbox, somebody who got a product, who brings in a product like that, gets implemented. It's for you to plug and play that for us. Once it's part of a straight-through process and there are feedbacks to be given. First is whether that automation is end-to-end, whether that automation is smart, and it's about plugging all these cultural issues within that. So I don't think it's very far off.
Yeah, but as a technology, it exists. But do you think, as a culture, whether it is India, Asia, or organizations that are there, are ready to take peer feedbacks, are ready to take team feedbacks which are bottom up, or is there some gap that we need to traverse still?
So this is uh, inevitable. And today, I don't think I can run my office with my peers or subordinate not being excited about me. Right? It's as simple as that. And if I don't get a feedback on the motivation level of my guys, there's something that's wrong. So I better kind of get a realization that their happiness index is as important for me to survive in the organization. So even unless I get feedback, one, I can't improve, and I also, if I don't improve, I'll not be able to build my brand, and I will not be able to attract talent. So I think our guys all understand this. It's a matter of, I think the core is to get a system and people will fall in place.
Got it. I think the whole transparency, data driven, and all of it is democratic ideals. I don't, and this is my point of view on how many organizations have become so democratic about how they function. I think that's where I see the gap. But yeah, I think what you said is fair. I think it is definitely inevitable.
Yeah,
I think
it
where
is inevitable.
where we need to see is making sure the change management happens. Great. So that's all I had, Deepak.
Great, Rohit. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Deepak. Thanks for this
Thank you.
session and
Thank you.
thanks for being
Thank
such a big supporter.
Thank you.